Alright folks, Animal Preparedness here. We just bought ourselves a Campion Portable Generator Dual Fuel Propane. 4,375 starting watts, 3,500 running watts, continuous. 9 hours run time, 68 dB, so it beats the F4 service. 30 amp. Cable comes with oil, so we're going to get this guy out. What the box shows about all the safety features, some of it. Durable steel frame. Big giant manual, and we'll need a pair of scissors to cut it out. Pretty heavy, folks, so it's definitely a two-man lift. So we'll take a look at it. Back in a minute. One thing you do not want to do, folks, is throw away the box or tear the box up until you've got it running and it's past its warranty period, because you want to be able to put it back in the box and ship it back to the manufacturer, and it's best to send it back in the OEM box. Alright folks, now that you've got it out of the box, you want to give it a once over to make sure that everything is there and it says it is. Check the oil. Make sure you have all the tools you're going to need to fill it up with oil. So do your first run. Alright folks, so we've got the oil, the entire contents inside of the vehicle, machine, doohickey, gizmo, whatchamacallit, thingabob. Pick one. Gave it plenty of time for the oil to migrate its way into the crankcase. You see that yellow dipstick plug. We're going to take the they give you this oil, extended oil funnel, so you don't want to put that anywhere else, because after running this about 10 hours you're going to want to drain that oil and refill it with this 10W30 that it recommends. I'd recommend that you buy probably not a case, but maybe a half a case of 10W30. Order about 2 spare spark plugs. I'm not going to run gas in this, to be totally honest with you. I'm not going to run gas in this. I meant it to be a propane generator. Now, up here on the corner it says 4,375 starting watts. That's with gas. And then 4,000 and 3,150 with LPG. So I plan on running this as LPG because I have a good supply of that, and everywhere you go you'll find people with these liquid propane tanks like that one right there full of propane. So come SHTF, just walk around your neighborhood, and you know, I'm not recommending anybody steal, but if you know that the building is abandoned, grab it, because you can refill it if you need to. Now, what's nice about this machine is it has the RV plug, so that's another reason why I got it, besides the Honda. The Honda is a 3000, so this one's 500 watts more. This can run 2 refrigerators, a heater, a air vent system, and all that. So let's continue on, folks. We'll show you in a minute what it looks like. Now the oil was clear. It wasn't this brown oil that you normally see. It's more like a clear, not really high viscous, but I'll show you the dipstick. This is your oil plug / dipstick. And as you can see down here, a little bit of it dripped out because it's right there at the full level. So you want to put it back in. Make sure you don't cross thread it. Gently. Give it a good turn. There you go. This engine is now ready for the propane. Make sure, like I said before, you put this somewhere where you're not going to forget it. It's got a hoop on it, so you can hang it on a wall or something in your garage or workshop or whatnot. This can go in the recycling bin. Okay, when talking about these gas fittings, notice on the end it is a tapered, and that can fit into this guy right here. This is a rubberized. It is righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, if you have a crescent wrench, what I'd recommend is getting a spray bottle, soapy water, a crescent wrench, this guy right here. I don't recommend a torque wrench, but if you have one, that's nice, but just make it tight where it's not spinning like that. And then you have your regulator here for your LP bottle. Now you can always buy these cables, hoses, I mean, longer, but for now, that's not necessary. They do make an adapter to run it off natural gas, but that's a whole different animal. We're not going to bother with that right now. Here is your switch between gas and LPG. This is your off. This is your on. When you don't want to turn that on until you got the cable, the hose hooked to the bottle you're going to use. I'll bring one of those out in just a moment. But for now, we're almost ready to run this thing. All right, folks, now we're ready to affix the hose. As you noticed, I'm going to make it just like that. We're going to connect it to our recently filled propane tank. If you've got one of those fuel level indicators, you might want to get one. That way you know how full your tank is. Remember, these are lefty tighty, righty loosey. I mean, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Just make sure it's on there snug. You released your. Okay, there's one thing you need to learn, folks. Make sure it's tightened tight. When you loosen it, just go to where it stops. Don't tighten it, just bring it back about a quarter turn. And now you can turn this on to run. That turns your magneto on. You let it sit for just a second to get the gas through the hose. It's under pressure, so it's just gonna fill it. Now this is when, if you don't have your wash bottle, your soapy water, you can just smell for this propane because they odorize it. You'll know if you got a leak, you'll smell it right away. Alright, I think we're ready to fire it up, folks. So let's see what happens. Now you got to find the pull starter. It's not electric start. There it is. Pull start. They take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to get it started. So you want to put the choke about halfway. As soon as I put that gas in it, it pulled over, started to sputter on the gasoline setting. So I shut it off and put it on the liquid propane setting, and it fired right up after about 7 pulls. Now you can hear it in the background running on LPG. So stick that in your ear there, champion. Figure it out without your help. Not a hat rack, folks. Not a hat rack. And then once I put gasoline in the tank, allowed the carburetor to see that gas, I switched it over to LPG, and it's running on it right now. Alright folks, this is the Campion Dual Fuel gasoline or propane, 4375 starting watts in gas, 4000 starting watts in LP mode. If you notice on the left hand side there, it says LPG in green with an arrow pointed down. And then on the right of that, when you move that knob or that yellow slide, that will expose the LPG gas valve. Right now it's in the gas mode, or will be once you turn that fuel valve up to the on position, and then you press the red toggle switch there below to the right of that, next to that 30 amp outlet. That'll allow you to run gasoline. Now you can't run them simultaneously, obviously, because of that switch that's right here. This is a switch that when this is in the on position, it makes the LP available, and you turn that guy. This is what you turn. Right now it's in the off. Everything right now is off. You can't run this generator at all right now. What you can do is leave it just like this in the ready to position. You can have your gasoline in it or not. I prefer to leave the gasoline out. I ran it empty, except for about maybe half a cup in the lower. There's these bridges in the tank. I'll have to I can't siphon it out, so I'll have to absorb it with a diaper or something, just to get it out of there, because I don't want it to be in there. Because I intend on using LP for this, and because gasoline, as you know, is it's not cheap, but LP hasn't changed price in over 2 years, so go figure. So I've been buying up LP 20-pound tanks. I got 4 of them now that are full. I've got one more over there. You can see it, that's full. And then you can always find those in your neighbor's hood. So if you need to run this thing and you're at a SHTF event and you know everybody else is split, they left their LP tanks, you may be able to help yourself to them without having to barter. And you could also barter with them. So there is that. So you can never have to worry about running out of fuel, because since it's dual fuel, it'll make your life a whole lot easier when you can't obtain it. So anyway, so if you want to switch it over to gas, you rotate that guy that way, turn this up to where it says on, press this switch and run it. When you want to shut the thing off, do it that way. If you want to starve it of fuel, you leave that running and then you turn this to close, and eventually it'll clear the line. That's not recommended, but that's how I do it. And there you go. Okay folks, make sure you only use 10% alcohol in your fuel. You can run premium, but it doesn't make a difference. It's still going to burn at the same rate. I'm going to find a time meter that I can get with this, and since it doesn't have a fuel, this is one of the lower value runs, because it does have a fuel tank, but you could just run it. I haven't filled it up. That tank there is about that full right there. I didn't want to go spend a whole bunch of money on gas, because that's going to go back into my car, because like I said, I intend on running this on LP. So I'll play a video where I hear it, where it's running. It's pretty loud, but it says 68 dB on the box, but I don't have a dB meter. I had to get rid of it because it was sucking my battery down on my phone, so I may reinstall it just to get. But you can go down the street and still hear it, so it's pretty loud. But an SHTF event, I hope everybody else around here has got one. Maybe not dual fuel, but there's only one house that I know has got a complete backup supply that's fixed to the house right over here. I've got the box to do a switchover, so I'll contemplate doing that sometime this year, because right there on the other side of this wall it's finished, so I'd have to do some conduit running. I planned on running it something over there and then go into the basement, and the panel's on the other side of the house diagonally to here. If I was to point in that direction, right there's where the panel is, 125 feet that way here. So I gotta get me some probably 50 amp indoor Romex to bring over here so I can do the switch over. I want to make this one the above ground or above the house power supply, and then my Honda 3000 that I'll use for the bottom. And then once I get the RV's Onan 5000 watt running, I'll have that as the backup to backup to backup, because that uses a fuel tank in the coach itself, and right now that's probably pretty ganky. So that's the summer project. But here you go, folks. These were $397.98. I had $100 of Sam's Club value money that I had built up, and I applied that to it, so it was a third less. So come payment time, I'll make the full payment on it and own it outright without having to pay interest, because you don't want to buy something on credit, folks. Remember, these guys have got you by the huevos, and they know they have you at anywhere from 12% to 32%. They can get away with it, and Uncle Love Me just lets it happen. It's loan sharking, but that's why I stop. I'm playing the system now where once I run the bill up, I don't run it too high, and I'll pay it off a week or so before it's due, and that way when it reports to the credit reporting agency a month later, 2 months later, it shows that I have I use my credit, but I'm not paying interest. It doesn't report that, but the credit card companies consider you a deadbeat if you don't give them a VIG, so I'm just using them as a placemat. Good Sam credit figured it out and cut the card. I had $3,800 in gift coupon money. I can't access it, so the account's still there, but I can't get to the points because they're not an active. To them, it's not an active account, but I can still go to this website and look at the points. And when I try to use them, it goes into apoplectic mode, and it won't let me because I can't reference into the credit card number because it doesn't exist anymore. Because once again, they called me a deadbeat, not to my face, but when I had paid $6,500, if you go look at your account and it shows that you've made $6,500 in purchases over a period of a year, but you didn't pay any interest because you paid it off right away. So they don't like that. All right, folks, we'll talk about this later, but right now I'm in love with this machine. 2 people can handle it. Okay, I don't want to get the wheel kit because that just means it could bomb us out of here rotating fast and sweet, left unattended. But what I will be getting is some good chain, good quality lock, and I'll find a way to secure it. But I've been watching the internet. These guys have been building these quiet houses for them that are well ventilated. I got a space that I've got. The shed is almost gone, so I think I'm going to replace it and have a generator shed. So that's it, folks. All right, folks, there's one thing I wanted to mention also. Down here in the middle of the display, it shows neutral floating. There's a ground bus right back there that you're going to want to attach this thing to a ground rod. You don't want to be operating this with a floating neutral. That is not recommended. So I would suggest that you go out and get some green wire. What gauge? I don't know. You can figure that out for yourself. But I would not run this without a ground. It even says it in the instructions, ground that connection to your earth ground. If you got a place on your wall that you can bring a ground out of it, that's even better. Wherever you're going to run it, if you're going to run it in an RV, connect it to the RV ground. When there's a generator in your RV, it also is a floating ground. That's one thing I never did like about having a generator not grounded in your, it uses the chassis of the vehicle, but it's not earth grounded. The tires are your insulator. But if you're going to run this in your house, yeah, I'd highly recommend it, because there's no, that if you notice, this 120 outlet's not a GFI, so that could be a problem, because it's misleading with that ground right there. That's not ground. It's referencing it to itself. So I gotta stop now because my telephone's telling me it's high temperature. Wow, that was different. The temperature of the telephone is now exceeding its usability, so I've got to shut this for just a few folks. And remember, folks, it can happen from the north, it can happen from the south, it can happen from the east, or coming from the west. Always be prepared, and if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, or I'll be out there waiting for you to come to me. Admiral Preparedness, God bless you all.